Hi, good evening, and I'm Deepa Mahesh, founder of Poorna Wellbeing, and I'm very happy to come live once again on this topic of the Poorna Wellbeing Chetanaa series, healing the burden of shame and guilt. So, just to give you some idea of Poorna Wellbeing was envisioned in 2019 to work towards balance, wholeness, and personal growth. We believe that the work on the self is the most important process, and we enable that. And I, as a well-being coach and a life coach, I strive to bring topics which focus on either the fragmentation of self or the integration of self, one of this. And as listeners, when you are listening to it, I would urge you to not just listen to it as a topic, but look at whatever, even if you take one aspect that I share into your life and reflect on your life and bring about one change in your life, I think it is worth the time that you have spent listening to this or any topic. So that's my endeavor when I bring Purna Wellbeing Chetana. And today, what I'm going to share, it's about healing the burden of shame and guilt. To tell you honestly, and it is an honest confession, I have been personally battling with both these emotions for many, many years, right from my childhood, I would say. And in the process of healing, through therapy, through workshops, through reading and self awareness courses, through coaching, now I would say I understand this process. And therefore, I've been able to bring it down to a manageable level and share it with you. So today, what I'm going to share with you, I will give my a few of my examples so that it contextualizes the theory and makes it little real for all of us concerned. And if you have any questions, you can definitely write in the chat box, or even later you can bring it to me on Purna Wellbeing page. So hello for those. Hi Sohini, glad that you're here, and whoever else is there on this page today right now. So I'm going to start not with shame, but I'm going to start with guilt today. First, what is guilt? Now, to say what is guilt, I'm going to just give an idea of what is guilt and what is shame. Guilt says, if guilt has a voice, it will say, I did something bad or something wrong. My actions are wrong. My behavior is wrong. But shame would say, I am wrong. I am bad. I am not okay. I am not enough. So, to distinguish, guilt is about my action, and shame is about my very being, who I am in the core of my being, and I'm not okay. So, go, what is guilt? Now, we've all grown up with moral codes, our parents have told us, and our other caregivers have told us what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. And sometimes we also become very rigid, than the others. Others have said it and gone, and we become rigid, saying, this is what is right for me, this is what is wrong for me. And that becomes our compass for our actions. Now, feelings of guilt stem from this moral conscience because we already have the rights and wrongs. It stems, if let's say we do something wrong that violates our moral compass or whatever is right and wrong, then we start feeling guilty, and it indicates our poor choice of actions. Now, I'm going to share an example with you, which really happened with me 2 days back, and I'll just bring that example. 2 days back, I had a very terrible fight with my 15-year-old son. I lost my temper, and while I was explaining to him about his actions. Now, just after I lost my temper, I felt very bad for how I behaved, how I spoke. I yelled at him. And, what I felt at that time was guilty. I told myself, I don't think the way I behaved was right. And I started feeling guilty and I started regretting. Of course, this mistake that I made, don't you think it can be repaired? Yeah, it can be repaired. Na? I go back to him and I give an apology or something like that, or I explain the intention behind, what I was doing. and also by saying that I'm not a perfect person. So the attitude of guilt or the feeling of guilt is such that we're willing to own it. We feel guilty because we have violated the moral compass, but we're willing to own it. I did something wrong and I feel bad about it. So there is a chance of, to make it, I can make it right. There is a redemption possible. I feel guilty and I can go back to my son and say, and which is what I did later. I sat down with him and I explained to him what I've been feeling about his actions. And definitely the way I said I yelled is not correct. But where is the intention? What am I saying? Where am I coming from? And I will share with you later that how it helped because it was very good. I no longer after that I didn't feel guilty. And in 1 hour everything was set right. So, in guilt, awareness plays a very important role. When I become aware that I have behaved inappropriately or I have behaved wrongly, then I just have to go back to that person or whomever I did that behavior with and correct my actions. That's all we need to do in guilt. So, it is more focused on my behavior. So guilt is useful. Moderate amounts of guilt is useful because there is a possibility of acknowledging, this awareness that we have all grown up with, and this awareness that the adults have to carry. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to use that awareness to acknowledge my wrongdoing, to accept responsibility for my actions. I can't just get away doing anything, na? I have to be responsible for whatever actions I take. And also, I'm communicating a desire that I want to improve myself and I want to improve my relationship with others. So, the issue is when already my self esteem is low, then even if I have self awareness, I can't get to the stage where, okay, just give an apology and go away. That guilt stays on for long, long time, and that converts into shame. And that's where the problem is. So when your self-esteem or your sense of self is weak, that's when guilt converts to shame, and that's disastrous. So when I come to shame, I will tell you how is it disastrous. Yeah. So what all can we feel guilt for? Guilt can be felt for the actions we have done. Just like what I told you, I shouted at my son. That's an action I did. Guilt can also be felt for the thoughts I hold. You know, like for example, when I used to work, I used to feel very envious or jealous for one of my work colleague. I used to feel she has everything. She has everything good. And I used to feel very jealous about it. She has great experiences. She was drawing much more salary than me. So this feeling that I was feeling jealousy for her used to give me guilt, who used to leave guilt in my mind. And I remember telling my boss that I think she's jealous of me. And he once told me that maybe you need to look into yourself. Maybe you're feeling it and you're projecting it onto her, and it is yours and not her envy. And I remember the when he said it, I felt so guilty. I mean, I felt so bad that how did I even feel like this for somebody like her. Honestly, we often use the word guilty and shame irreplaceably, so we interchangeably actually. But actually that time when he told me, I actually felt shame. I felt, how can I do this? So there's a very thin line between guilt and shame, but if you understand it very clearly and really differentiate it, there is a huge difference between it. We also feel guilty for not listening to parents. I have always been so obedient, I hate it. I'm a very free spirited person. I don't like to be obedient, but I was always obedient because I would feel guilty of not being obedient. So actually, not being obedient wasn't an option given to me by me, not by somebody else, but by me. And we also feel guilt when others blame you, and especially when we are not confident of ourselves, no, we feel guilt. So let me give you the entire picture once again. We have certain morals and what's right and wrong. We always tally our actions as per these morals and conscience. If it doesn't tally, we feel guilt. Once we feel guilt, we feel very shrunk, we feel small. What do? We start ruminating, we start thinking about it, we start rationalizing it. We start continuously, incessantly thinking about it. When we start thinking continuously, we think of it, we destroy ourselves. There's a destruction of self. Yeah, and especially if our confidence is low, self-esteem is low, that leads to shame, which means it says not that my actions were bad, but I am a bad person. I am a bad mother. If my self-esteem was low, I would have said, I'm a bad mother. I keep shouting at him or I keep yelling at him. So that is how that incident could have become shame. So enough. Now you know about what is guilt. How do you say enough is enough and I want to get past over guilt? Yeah. Now, uh, simple, very, very simple. You have to make a list of all the areas in your life where there is guilt. Yeah. Guilt means my actions or I have wronged somebody else. I'm not okay with that. And instead of keeping on thinking about it, just go and tell that person, that I have done something wrong and can we talk about it? It could be with your mother, it could be with people you've not spoken for a long and you're carrying that guilt inside. If we feel that and we're carrying the guilt inside, it does not make sense to carry it long, because that other person whom you're carrying the guilt for, carrying it for, that person is sleeping peacefully, but you are eating yourself inside. It's like termite inside. It's continuously gnawing. It's eating you. So it's best to accept it and say, I'm not perfect, and just speak to them. Yeah. Now, the other thing that you can do is, what were my motives? Suppose, in this case, let's take my son's example when I shouted at him. Now, I recall the entire incident. And what happened was, my son told me he's not going to attend the career counseling class session. And I got wild and, I shouted at him. Because I remember 4 days back, I was making him understand that this research is important. And he's giving importance to other things, but he's rubbishing this. And this is very important for his future because he's already in ninth class and he's not understanding the importance. He's not thinking. So then I looked at what are my motives. My motive is that I want him to be independent. I want him to be reflecting on his career choices. And my motive is his growth. So, if my motive is his growth and then I yelled at him, of course, I should not have used harsh behavior, but I can always go back to him and tell him my motive was this, and that is why I yelled at him. So, I went back and exactly told him, why am I saying all this? I made him understand. And when I made him understand, he understood. And, we patched up. And my guilt was completely zero because I myself understood. So I think if you make a list of all the things in your life you're feeling guilty about, where your actions have done wrong to somebody, make a list of all of that. Look at what your intentions were. If your intentions were to hurt that person, go and acknowledge that and apologize to that person and say, I'm not perfect. I did that to my mother. I remember when my first son was born 15 years back. I think my son was about 3, 4 days old, and I was struggling with managing him, managing his bathing, managing my own discomfort in my body. And one day I broke down and I told my mother, I'm very sorry for all that I have done to you and all the wrongs I have done to you, because now I know how it is to bear a child and bring up a child, and it's not easy. And you have brought me up, and today I am 28 years old, and you've brought me up for so many years, and I'm very thankful to you. So when I said that, it was a very special moment with me and my mother, because it has been a strained relationship between me and my mother, and that day I felt quite light when I did that because I was very truthful. I always kept telling her she's wrong, she's bad, she's this, she's that in my mind, but actually she's done a lot for me. And that day, some bit of guilt I could really offload. So like that, I think continuously, and it's a non-stop process because we can't make a list one shot. There are so many things we may be carrying and we may be feeling guilty about, and it's important to offload it. And the other thing that I realized that so one is making a list and offloading that list and sharing with people. The second thing to reflect on is, what are my standards of judgment or morals that I call morals, based on which I judged my action? Often we realize that our parents' morals could be our morals. Hi, Girij. Our parents' morals could be our morals. And it has been indoctrinated. Just an injection there, then it's been indoctrinated, and we are following without questioning. But are they really my morals? Are they my values? Is that the way I want to live my life? I ask myself, do I want to live my life in obedience, or do I want to live my life value based, which is picking what's right for me? And this question I asked much later, right now, when I'm 42 or something. And I realized that I don't want to live an indoctrinated life. So when our morals then are corrected or aligned to our values, the level of guilt also comes down, because we are not living somebody else's life, we are living our life. And we are living a life where the contradictions between what is inside and what is outside are lesser. Then the guilt also becomes lesser. If you have any questions, definitely you can write in the chat box, and I'll be available to share. So, just to summarize, guilt is about my judgment about my actions, about my behavior, could also be about my thoughts for somebody, which is even silent, or and it's always about breaking a norm that I have set for myself. So the way to manage it is to really, first of all, check our norms. Yeah, check our morals. And second, if you feel certain guilt for certain people or for certain actions, make a list of all of them. Look at what has been the incident. What was your intention? Was it to harm? You've not killed anybody. What was your intention? What was it that you did it for? And go to that person. And if you have to offer an apology and clear the air. The moment you clear the air, the guilt reduces, and you are able to release. You're able to live big. You're not shrinking anymore. Now we come to shame. So shame is when I look at shame, shame is like a poisonous snake living inside and injecting poison every minute. So, and sometimes we know it, sometimes, most often, we don't know it. So, if we are living in shame, it means uh, it's a poisonous snake sitting inside. That's the analogy comes to me, because that's how it was for me. You could have another image for it. So, what is shame? I said guilt is about the actions. It's a judgment of the actions I do. But shame is one step ahead. It's about how we feel about ourselves. It's a feeling that I am inadequate. It's a feeling that I am just not good enough. It's a feeling that I am defective. As a person, I am incompetent. And not only am I incompetent, if somebody sees my incompetency, oh my God, I can't bear it, so I have to hide. So it is a devastating blow to my own self-worth. मैं हूँ ही नहीं कुछ. I am good for nothing. So it's a profound form of self-criticism to our whole self. And as I'm saying it, I'm having such emotional reactions inside, because I have moved out of this space in my life for myself. I don't do it anymore, but I'm just imagining. I used to do it 24 hours, 365 days in the yesteryears, and I'm just uh, it's so hard to live in a body which carries shame all the time. It is not easy. It is very, 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 very difficult. So in the outside, we may put up a smile, we may seem happy, we may feel okay, but in the inside, I'm cringing. I am literally shrinking. I am nothing. I am a piece of chicken shit. I'm nothing. That's the way shame lives in the body. That's the way it is. So it's like, now let's take the same example. I had a terrible fight with my son, and I said those words in anger that I told you. I feel shame. So I first feel guilt, And then what happens is, when my son is now talking to me, let's say my son is also angry because I shouted at him, and he says, and he tells me that you such a bad mother, and he's told that many times to me before. So you're such a bad mother. What when you feel shame, you start telling yourself, I am such a bad mother. I don't know how to parent. So many programs I have attended, and yet I'm not changed. I will never ever change. These are the words of shame. So if I say I will never ever change, I cannot correct my action with an apology to my son. I have branded, it's like a chap, that I will never ever change. So there is no remorse. I cannot do anything about it. I can't correct it. I can't offer an apology. Even the apology feels fake. And I remember when I used to feel shame and my fights with my son used to happen. And you know what he used to tell me? He used to tell me, you have offered this apology a number of times and you have done the same thing. What is the use? And when he used to tell that, I used to tell this to myself, he's right. I'm useless. What a bad mother I am. You know, this is how shame manifests. And when you feel the sense of shame, you can't even look at that child. You will want to hide yourself. You will feel like much smaller. You will feel like your incompetence has got exposed. How is he judging? Actually, he's not judging you. He loves you unconditionally. He loves me unconditionally. But I am judging, you know. So, how this shame has gone into the depth of my soul. In fact, it lives in the bones, it lives in the deepest parts of the being. And it even goes into the core of the being. And then what he does is it says, you have no core. It tells you that you're very bad at your core. There's nothing good about you. You're so bad in your core. That's how you are. It's like a stamp in the core of yourself, you know. And these days I'm doing sessions on discover your core, and I'm telling people how radiant they are, because when you are able to let go shame, you'll be able to see your radiance. So that's how it works. And you know, when you have because shame is so difficult to live in, some people get into behaviors like addictions, could be infidelity, could be perfectionism at work, professional with the body toning and all of that, perfectionism in house arrangements, or it could also manifest as excessive dependency in relationship. I'm dependent on my husband or my father or my mother, or sometimes even on my children, for every damn thing, which means I am nothing. You know, on my own I'm really nothing. I'm like a parasite. I'm like a creeper. That's how shame, you know, this is the thing. How a creeper, you know, like a koala bear on a branch, it's like that. It's like you're always creeping. And there could also be many compulsive behaviors that could manifest, because it's very hard to live with shame, and be sane. So the message of shame um, says you are not changeable, you can't change. And once you have that message, it's like a circle, it's like a spiral rather. It keeps going on inside and going on inside and going on inside, and then you become very inward. That's how you start feeling in the core. So even if other people tell you that you're good, I remember my bosses, everybody telling me you're so good, but I could never listen to them, because I used to say they must be lying, or they must be, you know, I can't be so good. How is it possible that I tell myself I'm bad and they say I'm good? How can it be so diametrically opposite? So, you know, you kind of shrug it aside. You can't take it. Now, what happens is when you don't take the compliment, or when you don't take what's coming from the outside, it does not allow an opportunity to fill you up, which means you keep eroding yourself. So the shame does not allow you guilt. At least when you accept it, you can become whole again. You can become full again. But in shame, you can't, unless you remove from the roots. You cannot become whole again when it's operating in you, because it's like a downward spiral. And the more you feel shame, the more you feel dependent on others, the more you want to be addicted, and the more of the same negative behavior manifests. So it literally cuts the core of your identity. It's a severing process. It cuts the core of your identity, and that's how you live in your body. Very, very difficult to live like that, because the voices of this cutting process, how it sounds. I am defective, I am worthless, I'm good for nothing, I am untrustworthy, I am unlovable, I am bad. And if I don't be perfect, I won't be loved by anybody. Or I have to hide myself, otherwise I'll be found out. Or um, yeah, all of this. Yeah, these are typically the voices. As I say it itself, I can feel it in my body. How it pulls us down, because it's an energy. It's really an energy, and uh, and that energy can really, really, it is debilitating. That's the word I have actually. Where does this come from? Where does shame come from? When we think about where it comes from, there are a few sources. Shame, one of it comes from very critical parents. Um, when parents are very critical, they also directly or indirectly say that you're not good enough in some way or the other. So they're not okay with whatever you do. And then there can be verbal abuse, there can be emotional abuse, or even physical, beating. And that's when you start feeling, oh, I can't do anything right. I'm not good enough at all. Here, I would also like to bring in the concept of narcissistic parents. If you have parents who have narcissistic personality disorder, they generally have an inflated image about themselves as parents, and whatever the child does, the child can never live up to them, their standards or their expectations. But the child always loves the parent irrespective, and they don't know how the parents are, so they tend to grow up with this feeling, I'm not good enough. Body shaming, a lot of times body shaming also happens when you're growing up. I had a lot. I was extremely thin, and I also had this condition called psoriasis. It is a skin condition, and it shows up in different parts of the body, and I had it from very child, when I was really young. And I remember, I used to be so ashamed of it, going to school with it, going to dance class with it, being at home with it, that I lived for many, many years with that kind of a shame. I would want to hide it. I'll do anything. And when you have to hide that, and the shame consumes so much energy, that all your energy goes into hiding it. Then the same energy which is used, either when you're a child, it's used for studies, or it's used for games, or it's used for something else, is not available, because you're using that energy to hide. Where is the energy left? you know and where is the energy left to radiate when your energy is used to hide your shame, hide that thing which you are ashamed about? It can also come from shaming from culture. Like, for example, I'm a Tamil Brahmin, and I could never understand mathematics, and a Tam Bram not knowing maths is not okay, because people are all genius, including my parents. Everybody, they're good at mathematics. So I remember I was always feeling ashamed for my incapacity in understanding mathematics. I have by hearted mathematics all my life, and it used to manifest even when my children do mathematics. So now they are in ninth grade and fifth grade. And I have this tension when they used to do mathematics. And it is coming from my culture of how non-performance in mathematics. I mean, there was once, even one of the unit tests or something, there was a red line, like I had failed because I was so scared of mathematics. So in my core, it's like I can't do mathematics. So anything related to mathematics, be it finances, be it even, I'm even scared to pay online for any transaction. I get scared to go to the bank. It used to be bone deep. Of course, I'm saying sometime back, not anymore. Now I'm much more confident. So there are these. This is how, and also the other thing is, if you have gone through childhood trauma. When I'm saying trauma, any kind of abuse. If you have had alcoholic parents who have beaten up a lot, or their behavior in the social aspect has caused shame to you. It could happen because of that, or any kind of physical, sexual abuse. any kind of deep shame, something has happened in your childhood that carries in the adulthood, and that is bone deep also. So, all of this can cause um, impairment in your thinking, your feeling, and your behavior. How does it cause thinking in the thinking? Non-decision making, negative thinking, pessimism, and there are always these narratives which are running. I'm not good. I'm not good. I'm not good. So, and there are many variations of I'm not good, and they keep running in your thinking. And so, if a new project comes, and let's say you're the most competent person. I used to do this, whenever I used to and I would take up new projects, and the first 1 month I would spend in, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And my manager would tell me that there is nobody else who can do other than you. And I would ask him, really, boss? Really, can I do it? And all the time, I would exceed expectation in whatever I have done. But the point was not the output, but the process used to be so fearful, because in the feeling level, how shame manifests is extreme fear. And it's so scary, this fear of taking up something, that it completely stops. And also, there's a lot of sadness, there is grief, there is hopelessness in at the feeling level. Um, and in the action, sometimes we are stopped, or we have anger, we have rage. And I know how much rage I used to have, because, and that rage is coming from real helplessness, hopelessness, helplessness. Or sometimes people even withdraw because they can't handle it. Is it real? How? I mean, I don't know. Some of you who are watching, yeah, you can share if you connect with what I'm saying. Um, i- are all these real? To me, it always felt it was real. It was extremely real, and it was skin deep, bone deep. Yeah, it was really, really deep for me. It's a very painful feeling, you know, because um, it consumes a lot of energy. It's like living without a core. It's like living without a center. It's like living in the periphery. Imagine a flower, just the petals without the center. It's like living like that. Because अपना खुद का center, what is the center itself, we don't know. Our center feels like dependent on the other when there is a lot of shame. Because it deconstructs the sense of self. It's like living without a core. Yeah, so it's a continuum. It can have embarrassment, then shy, and then you could feel stupid, you could feel humiliated, you could feel worthless. Whatever you feel, you can't do anything about it when you're in that cycle of shame, because it's like a downward spiral. And end of the day, you would want to shrink and really not show up. It is not possible to show up. Yeah. But is there a way out of it? Yes, there is a way out of it. And for those who connect with these symptoms, and for those who are going through this cycle, it will be disservice to your own self. Like it was disservice to myself if I didn't come out of it. So I didn't give myself an option, because it's really not worth living a life like a vegetable, like without a core, when I have chosen this life to manifest my destiny, my work, what I can do with people. It's so beautiful. So this negative cycle can be broken and needs to be broken. This negative self-talk needs to be seen and needs to be axed, needs to be killed. And it's not easy. You need energy to even do this. And I would say take help, because it's very, very difficult to do it on your own, because the energy of that, if you even raise the axe, the energy can lash back. It's very tough. Um, so you definitely take help, but yeah, it can be broken. Um, so how do you even know you're going through it? If you're saying these things to yourself, so the first step is to identify that I am going through this downward spiral of shame. Identify that. Identify the shame. What do you say to yourself actually? Recognize it, and recognize if others are doing it or you're doing it. Most often, the others may have done it in their childhood. They have probably they have even died or they have stopped. They have even told you that, oh, you're great. But now we have internalized it. We have internalized, and that has become your reality. So we need to change that reality back to what we feel is the truth. Yeah. So what do we need to do? We need to recognize the shame that others are shaming you or I'm shaming myself. And what do you say? Do you say, oh, I'm stupid? I can't believe that I can say this. Or nobody will want to talk to you. Rubbish am I talking? I look awful today. I look horrible. Rather, I don't look good any day. And I also, I can never do as well as others in my course. I mean, this is something I used to say often, all the time comparing with the other. And I compare because the core is not there. Because who I am is not there. So obviously, what is there is only the other. And therefore, that comparison. So it's really, really important to know what are the statements I tell myself to shame myself? How is it that I come down? What are the statements which are bone deep, which happen? The other exercise that you could do is also to understand where did this shame originate? Like when where did it start and how am I continuing it? Like I told you, I was very thin in my childhood and I had psoriasis and it started there and with the body shaming it started going very deep into my body and and that's how I started going down the negative spiral. Now you have to say, see what was your origin of what was your source of shame in your childhood. Yeah. And if you've identified the source of shame, and if there are incidences, re-evaluate those incidences from another perspective. Like I'll tell you how I overcame this psoriasis shame. Now, so psoriasis is a condition where it comes, then it goes for a certain period of time, then it comes again, it goes. It's an autoimmune disorder. So I think about 7, 8 years back, it came again, and I tried all kinds of medicines. It was not going. It was just not helping me. And out of frustration, I said, "Leave it here. I'm not going to go for any medicine." And I left it. And I was in this process that I was looking at the wound. It was in my leg. And I was looking at the wound and uh, I was touching my wounds with a lot of love. I mean, actually, that's when I realized I have never ever touched my feet because I was so ashamed of that part of the body. That part of the body I never accepted. So, and it was magical. When I started touching it, it started vanishing. And today I don't need a doctor. Today, even if it comes, I just touch it and I speak to it, it goes. It comes and it goes. It doesn't impact me and I don't get impacted by it. So its power to shame me completely went away. It had no power on me because I had given it the power to shame me because somebody in my childhood had told me. Yeah, now that whatever may be their intentions, those people are not there in my life. Now, what I am living with is me and my psoriasis in my body, which comes and goes. So now I have to see how do I deal with it. So I have to change my perspective. And when I changed from I hate you to I'm okay with you. You're a part of my body. You're there and it's okay. You can be there. The moment when I said you can be there, it vanished. So I no longer feel the shame and I'm okay. I used to not wear many dresses, this, that. Now I'm okay. I will choose to do what I choose to do because I'm not ashamed of it anymore. So when we see the same incidences that shaped us from another perspective, I think the of power of that incidence to shame completely reduces, vanishes. And some bit of shame is important. So we're not saying completely we don't need shame at all. We need shame. So, when we look at go back to the origin. So, first of all, look at all those areas where you feel ashamed. Look at the origins, look at the source. And third is just accept. That's what I went through, When and acceptance is the most abused word now. Everybody says accept, but it's very hard. It's when you know that this thing troubles you, you can't accept. But the fact is, we are not perfect. It was never created. We were never created to be perfect. We assume that we have to be perfect because we are so ashamed of ourselves. So when we remove that shame, we'll say that if shame is not there, then I'm okay with my imperfection. I'm okay if my house is not clean. I'm okay if my desk is messed up. It's okay. I mean, right now when I see my desk, it's not super clean and I'm okay with it. I mean, I'm functional. So when we act curious rather than critical, um, I think that's when the critical part comes down. It's like a lash, the moment you don't lash at yourself, you don't bash yourself, what remains is a curious inquiry. Okay, let me see why, let's understand what's happening inside. So you're becoming a self researcher, you're gathering information about yourself. You're not gathering information to beat yourself. Yeah. So just accept. And the fourth step, and I think this is the most important step, is to redefine or define, rather define what is the core. Who are you in your core? Who are you? Because when you are in shame, you say you are defective in your core. But that's not true. That's shame telling you. What are you saying? What are you believing? What is your core? It can't be shame. What it is. If shame is removed, then there is void. No, there is nothing. You have nothing there. So now we have to identify what it is. And that's when you identify your core. From I am a bundle of imperfection and mistake to I am a radiant being. And that radiance has certain qualities, that has certain aspirations. And it was there even from the day I was born. It was always there. So, what is that? That can then become the way of life. Then all my actions, whatever I choose, even my morals and everything, can be based on that core, on who I am, and not based on shame or based on guilt. That's when peace can come back. So I think it's so critical to redefine, rather define your self-worth. It's so critical to define your self-worth. And in all of this process, it's important to take help. It's very hard. If you have got used to it for 30 years, 40 years, if you got used to it, I mean, I have been taking help for the past 10 years, and that's not funny. I have seen so many therapies, so many coaches, so many programs, invested lakhs of rupees because I am dear to myself. I know I have problems. I know I have imperfections. It's not that I'm going to correct myself, but I want to live a joyous life. And I want to live a joyous life. And now, when I'm already living a joyous life, I want to say I want to help people live a joyous life. Because I've been able to do it for myself, I'm sure I'll be able to do it with others also. So it's from then from you to you and the other. That's how it manifests. So, when you do all of this, the end result is the belief that from I am defective, I'm unacceptable, I'm not worth it, to I am worth every breath I take, every moment I live on this earth, and every ounce I contribute on this earth. And that's a very empowered space. It's a very radiant space to live in. Yeah. Both in moderate levels is healthy and necessary. When it just goes beyond those levels, they start contributing to suffering, to shrinking, to stuckness, to the downward spiral, to remorse, to complete breakdown, to depression, to many other things. So, all it takes is to see it properly. What is this guilt? Which areas in my life am I feeling guilty? What are the shame statements I'm telling myself? What has been the origin? If it's guilt, then can I just go and make up for whatever I've said? If it is shame, can I look at those events from another perspective? Heal those wounds. Take help. Take help from people. Go seek out coaches who can really help you in this process. And claim your radiance. Claim your core. Because it's really not worth living small, living shrunk, living disempowered. Yeah, so that's all I had to share. Yeah, Sohini. Um, Hi, yoga. Guilt is an emotion while shame is a feeling. Nice. Sohini, yes, you connect with the symptoms. Oh, is it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I felt that, Sohini, when you were sharing with me, and that, which is why I told you that I can help. Yeah. So, yeah. Any other questions you can always leave behind, and I can always reflect and answer. Thank you for watching. I want to share that next week, the coming Sunday, I will be coming live on Poorna Wellbeing Samvada with Dr. Shushmita, and we're going to take up the same topic on shame and guilt, and we'll be exploring this topic from another perspective. She's a therapist, and she uses many integrative techniques, and uh, we look at this topic from another lens. And next month on September 10th, I will have Poorna Wellbeing Circle. That's a workshop which I'll be facilitating, and I'm taking up the same topic. So any of you who resonate with this and who want to work on shame and guilt, you can register for that course, for that workshop, and we can explore that. That's on second Saturday of October from 3 to 4:30. So have a great evening, and see you soon. See you next Sunday.